This is fourth question, very important for the 10th marks from third chapter. Difference between the fundamental rights and the directive principles of state policy. Okay, you can write the first line. The following table provides the difference between the fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. After that, we can write a table. Left side we can write fundamental rights, right side directive principles of state policy. We can write 10 differences. First point from the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are positive in nature. Directive principles of fundamental rights are negative in nature. Directive principles are positive in nature. Second point from the fundamental rights. Fundamental rights are justifiable in courts. Courts issues writ orders for implementation of these fundamental rights under the Article 32. Second point from the DPSP. DPSPs are not justifiable. Courts cannot compel the government to implement them. Compel means force. Third point from the FR. FR means fundamental rights. Okay. Article 13 says any law and order is violating the fundamental rights that will become void. Third point in DPSP. No law or order become void if it is violates the DPSP. Fourth point from the FRs. Fundamental rights are concerned about the citizens and protects the individual liberty and life. Fourth point from the DPSP. DPSPs are aimed to development and welfare of the nation in social, political, economic aspects. If the conflicts, fifth point from the FR, if the conflict arises between fundamental rights and DPSP, fundamental rights override directive principle state policy. Fifth point from the DPSP. DPSP can't override fundamental rights of individual. Fundamental rights are sixth point in FR. Fundamental rights are enumerated in Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. No separate legislation is required to enact or implement them. Sixth point from the DPSP. DPSP is only guiding principles of future governments. To implement them, separate legislature is provided. Seventh point from the FRs. These are orders to the state and successive government from the Constitution. DPSP advises for successive government for implementation of the ideas of the constitution makers. Eighth point from the FR. Whoever be in government, fundamental rights are implemented. DPSP eighth point. DPSP can be implemented. DPSP can be implemented all to the wish and will of the persons in government, because there may be constraint in implementation and the lack of the resources, opposition from various groups, etc. Ninth point from the FRS. Fundamental rights are represent nature of the political democracy of the state. Ninth point in DPSP. DPSP explains ideas of the nation and the aims and goals of the government. 10th point in fundamental right. Fundamental rights are assurance to the individual person of the Indian citizen who strives for his nation to participate in democratic activities without any restriction. 10th point in DPSP. DPSPs are initiatives to be taken up by the government. I don't fucking understand what languages I write here. Government has. DPSP are initiatives to be taken up by the government as, and when there is availability of the resources for fulfillment, welfare and I don't understand this language. Okay, fulfillment and welfare of the government. That's it.